Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Bad about yourself? Oh my god. You fucking up.
Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Steve Baxi and Milan Jeftic 1992. And that is obviously the only people that are here. There was obviously no kind of indication that another person would be on the show tonight. Correct, gentlemen?
Yep. That is correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here we are, we're back again, and we're going to be reviewing a certain movie that one of our Geeky Gentlemen that is not here, that is definitely not here, really loves. So we're going to be talking about Skyfall, and one of our Geeky Gentlemen that, as I have said, is not here, is not here to join us.
I feel like I'm being ignored here now. I don't know what you guys are trying to pull. Hi, everybody. I'm back, bitches! Hello, everyone. I am Zazibar, and I'm back on Geeky Gentlemen. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been like 3 months, dude.
It's been a while. It's been a while!
I've shed many tears of pain with your
absence.
It's been a while.
It's been a while!
Up again.
The room is bigger. It's a little wider. But yeah, otherwise it's about the same. It's about the same dank, blood-covered room that it's always been.
We've also got some wine now, so that's good.
That's good. I'm not really a wine guy though, so it doesn't really do anything for me.
That's okay. Beer's in the fridge.
Good. I'll grab a Coors Light. Hey guys, what's going on?
Hi.
So we're reviewing Skyfall today?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought we were reviewing Chicken Little because Ian just told me Skyfall, so I was like, oh, but he would never review a James Bond movie, so I'm assuming like the movie involves the sky falling. So I watched Chicken Little.
Why would I tell you, like, the details of the movie instead of the title of the movie?
Because you sometimes text me really pretentious, like, weird shit, so...
What? Give me an example, please.
I don't know, like, one time you were texting me about Paul McGann, like, talking to orangutans or something. I don't know what was going on.
No. Dude, fucking Paul McGann narrated a documentary about orangutans. It was awesome. It was fucking Paul McGann.
That's exactly what I just said.
No, you said talking to orangutans.
It's the same thing.
That's significantly
different. Like, Paul McGann talking to any vaguely human-like animal is just amazing, in my opinion.
Yeah, Milan totally got me into fucking orangutans for some reason.
Oh, they are amazing.
So, like, I watched all these documentaries about orangutans.
So if you guys ever do a sequel to the Bleeding Fandoms video we did, now orangutans could be one of them.
Exactly, and, like, no, seriously, though, like... He went on the whole fucking rant about monkey butlers, and then I started, like, looking up videos about orangutans, and I saw one fucking rowing a boat. It was amazing. Anyway.
It's weird that happened, because we just talked
a
lot about apes on the last Demons from Outer Space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, we're going to be talking about Skyfall, and so, since Steve is the one that picked this topic, I figured I'd have him go first and explain... Steve, I want you to give your general thoughts on Skyfall, but also why you chose it.
Okay. So general thoughts, when I went to see this movie in the theater, I went in wanting to hate it, okay? Something a reviewer should never do. I went in wanting to say this is going to be terrible.
Really?
And I loved it. It's probably one of the best James Bond films ever made. It might be the best, but Spy Who Loved Me and From Russia With Love are really good, too. Mm-hmm. The only issue I have with it, really, that really kind of takes away from the experience is Daniel Craig's acting. And that's going to be a constant thing whenever we talk about James Bond, whether it's a video about the character or the acting or not. And kind of the main reason I picked it is because I'm just a big James Bond fan. We talked about politics a lot. We talk about social commentary. And there's just been a lot of room to just include relativistic political ideas that James Bond's kind of famous for, especially in the books. So rather than like making a video about that speech James Bond gives at the end of Casino Royale in the book, why not just do a whole video on one of the better Bond films?
I agree.
Definitely.
Okay,
Cool. The thing with the movie is, people say that Daniel Craig isn't James Bond because he's essentially every other stock action spy hero nowadays. And in the first two movies, I kind of agree. He's not really James Bond. He's just man that hurts people for the government. But, you know, now, with the third movie, I think they finally got it. They went back to brass tacks, fucking proper James Bond, 1960s James Bond. A woman as a secretary, goddammit. The world is right again. A woman is sitting at a desk and she's black and she's a secretary. That's how the world was meant to be.
Let me just say, with Milan saying that, I never picked up on the subtle sexist tones in this movie until watching it this time, but I was like, wow, they're kind of in there.
Definitely.
Yeah, but just to bounce off what you two guys are saying, I'm also a big Bond guy, and I actually had a similar experience with Steve. I didn't go in wanting to hate it. I went in more not liking the first trailer and just thinking it looked really, really mediocre. And I was like, oh, good, we're going to get a really mediocre modern espionage movie for James Bond's 50th anniversary. Sounds like a good time. And that's not really what it was. Well, no, that's what I thought the trailer looked like. And then I saw the movie and I was like...
The trailer looked awesome.
Okay, Milan, let Bill finish.
And then I saw the movie and I was completely blown away by it. And I think that part of the reason why I was completely blown away by it was because I went in thinking, alright, I'll give it a chance. And maybe it'll impress me, and it absolutely did. I think, comparing it to the three Craig films, I still think Casino Royale is better as a whole, in terms of those three movies and in terms of his performance, in terms of his run as James Bond. I still think that Casino Royale as a movie is just more impressive to me and just holds up better as a grand piece. But Skyfall is just so much goddamn fun. It is such a wonderful way to celebrate 50 years of Bond, because unlike the last time we had an anniversary Bond movie, this one actually tells a fucking story. And it tells a damn good spy story. Oh, I loved it. It's very interesting too, because one of the fears I had was, it's going to be a modern crappy espionage movie, kind of like the Bourne movies or something. And it's not like that at all. It is extremely reverential towards classic Bond. I love the way it's shot. There are some great vistas in this movie, some great iconography. I adore it. I think it's fantastic as well.
All right, so now, motherfucker. Who's still with me, if anybody?
I'm still here.
I am.
I'm here.
Okay. Sorry, we just had a drop there.
Oh, okay.
Weird.
I was like, did somebody come in and murder Ian?
No, alright, so, no, my internet's been just dying on this computer randomly.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's what happened last week. We were talking after the show and the call just dropped. But anyway. Alright, so now I'm sure, and I don't want to sound too cocky or egotistical or anything, not that I'm known for that. I'm pretty sure everyone is now wanting to know my thoughts on James Bond. Skyfall. So here we go. I've never. Here's the prologue to Ian's general thoughts.
Oh, good.
I've never liked James Bond. I don't hate James Bond. I just don't give a fuck about James Bond. He's just one of those characters. It's not for me. I don't care. All right. So there's the first part of the prologue. Second part of the prologue, and this connects to the whole thing about the trailer. Saw the trailer for this movie in theaters, and it was one of the few things that made me go, I kind of want to see that movie. That looks good.
Really?
And then, once it came out, everybody and their brother said it was the greatest Bond movie, one of the greatest action movies, the greatest spy movie ever made. Got all this fucking praise left and right. It got nothing but attention. And you guys know me. When something gets so much praise and I don't have a chance to see it before that happens, before that kicks in, I start to just dislike it or not want to see it because now it's built up too much in my head. So now, 2 years later, Bill?
Yeah, pretty much. Just about.
Yeah, so 2 years after the movie has come out, I've finally seen it. 2 years after all the hype, I've finally seen Skyfall. And I didn't hate it. I don't love it. There are issues that I'm going to point out, and I'm sure people will argue with me on them, but it's stuff that I noticed because I had no other choice but to think about this movie and why everyone loved it so much. So we'll get into that, but in general, it's a fun movie, and I can see what people like about it. Okay.
That sounds really facetious.
No, I'm dead serious.
It is the most facetious fucking prologue to a video I have ever heard.
No, seriously, like, I can really understand what people enjoy about this movie.
Yeah. Okay.
I just happen to disagree with a number of them.
If I may, how much of those disagreements may be solved if you had a background and were able to accept that certain flaws are just inherent in the James Bond formula?
That is certainly an issue and a concern.
Because James Bond is just known for certain things that will be in every film, regardless of how much we love or hate it, and they're going to be stupid, but it's just there. And after a while, you learn to live with them, and the movie has to transcend them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many of my complaints are based on the tropes, but if I start a complaint, and if I get a complaint out there and you tell me it's based on a trope, I will believe you. It won't solve the problem, but I will believe you.
Well, let me just say this.
It just reflects the viewing of it.
Yeah, let me just say something to that point, Steve. It's interesting because Skyfall definitely has that in a couple places, especially in regards to the villain plot. But I think it's interesting that, in many ways, as much as it celebrates the legacy, it almost celebrates the legacy by doing the opposite of it. And one thing that I find so interesting about it is that, you know, Bond is known for these big, grand-scale, globe-trotting adventures. And that's certainly in there a little bit towards the beginning. But when you look at the climax of this movie, it's completely flipped on that. But at the same time, in a testament to how good I think the movie is, it's just as exciting as, say, the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, where we're battling these supervillains with these crazy weapons inside of this submarine-like hangar thing underwater. It's just as exciting as that to me.
Oh,
so
definitely.
I think that's kind of interesting.
And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that it was Bond's 50th anniversary when this came out, because there's a precedent for this to be terrible.
God, yeah, absolutely.
48th anniversary was Die Another Day.
Yep.
And Die Another Day does everything to celebrate the Bond legacy in the most over-the-top, terrible way possible. It is the single worst James Bond movie ever made. And then, at the 50th anniversary, we get Skyfall, which does the same thing, but completely opposite.
Yes.
Okay, Milan, you were about to say something. Milan, go ahead.
I love the fact that this fucking film has an actual color palette. I've missed it. Because every other film at that time was just gray and let's put like a blue tint all over everything, so the whole film just kind of blends together into one, mushy, incoherent mess. But here you have color. The scenes are just burned into your retinas with the sheer artistry of the camera angles and the color. Color is a good fucking thing. And yes, I have to disagree with Bill. When I first saw the trailers, I was actually really excited because it felt like proper Bond again. It didn't feel like I made that whole joke about, the lady secretary, but really we kind of had the kind of weird quasi modernism in Bond, but not really. It's kind of a double-handed thing. But here we get back to basics. We get back to that kind of delightful, not camp exactly, but that kind of homeliness. But that. You know what I'm talking about. That kind of...
A lot of the iconography is revisited, especially in the ending.
Exactly. But I like the fact that the iconography is redone in a more modernist way. Like, it's a lot more... Like, we love the 60s. Everyone likes the 60s, but I love it when cool...
I don't.
Well, whatever. Well, I like it when cool things are made to look cool now. You know, you have things that kind of try to reinvent or breathe more life into a certain thing, and it just kind of fails because they focus on the wrong things. But Skyfall, I think it focused on the right aspects of, Bond that made it, universally, fantastic through the ages. Mm. And they kind of just said, here's 2000 and whatever's Bond. And it's not really specific to that year, but it says something of the time, definitely. And
I'm glad you bring that up, because Skyfall's whole thematic undertone is trying to defend James Bond and try to make him to defend his relevance in the modern age. That's what the whole movie is about, and it does that. And it's not the first time that's had to been done with James Bond. That's what GoldenEye is all about as well. But this one, it's way more prevalent, and they go into a lot more depth with it. With GoldenEye, it's just kind of a surface thing of like, oh, we can't use the Russians anymore, so we'll have to come up with something else. But with this, they go into a lot more detail.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, GoldenEye is apologist, and it doesn't try to redefine Bond for modern age as much as it says, okay, we can't do this anymore, what's something we can do? And in this, it's a James Bond that, James Bond comes from a time of imperialism, James Bond's a misogynist, James Bond is altogether not a likable person in the 2000s.
Sometimes
but here's
it's just
why we
gotta slap a woman.
If a woman gets out of line, you should, give her a hit with an open palm, not a closed palm. You don't want to be an asshole.
Smack a bitch around. Smack a bitch around.
All I'm saying is sometimes you just gotta hit a bitch. Don't use your ring hand.
Keep your pimp hand strong, son.
Okay, Steve, continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's all I was really going to say is James Bond's not a likable person, but here's why we like him anyway. That's kind of the crux of what they want to do with him here.
A little bit, yeah.
All right. Okay, so I guess I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna go through my list of complaints or issues that I see, and we're just gonna argue about them as I think how this review is gonna go.
Fun.
At least for the first bit, because I know I feel like that I've already pissed off a lot of people by saying this movie isn't perfect. So let's continue.
I don't think it's perfect either.
It's not.
Okay.
This film is the most perfect thing ever.
I do have a couple of major complaints, by the way, that I want to get into.
All right, well, let me go first.
Go ahead.
Exactly how long is James Bond dead? Because, with the black girl, it's clearly they clearly see that it's no more than a year. There's no way it's been more than a year between the two of them, the way they're interacting.
3 months, the way I think they say in the movie.
Yeah, I think they flat out say it's been about 3 months.
Yeah.
Alright, then what the fuck is with everyone, reacting to him the way they do? Especially Q. Q is the one that drives me the craziest. Because he acts like 10 years have passed in the 3 months that Bond has been gone.
Q?
In
what way?
You want to... What are you looking
mean?
for? What are you looking for? An exploding pen? We don't do that kind of thing anymore. They act like it's been fucking years since he's been around in some
I see what you mean. The whole thing has changed?
Yeah, everyone acts like he's been gone for decades.
I can see why...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I can kind of see that point, but it's not so much that James Bond has been gone and MI6 has evolved. It's more of a spontaneous thing because of what happened. Because of MI6 being attacked. It's not so much that it's not so much a time thing. It's more of, well, we're being attacked and we've had to change our ways quickly and had to adapt. And that's.
But why would you get rid of exploding pens? Why?
I have 2 points to counter what Ian was saying. Actually, one of them is just by the history of the way Bond works in some of these things. Spy Who Loved Me does this also, where when Bond supposedly dies at the very beginning of the film, it's not as much of a plot thing as it is a symbolic thing of what the character is in a meta sense. So Bond's dead because it's the modern sense. And when he comes back, it's a new generation, not because it's that much time in the film, but because now you're reaching a new audience. And they want to really convey that now Bond has left the 60s way of doing things in the opening action scene, and we're jumping into farther ahead of time for the audience as people who watch James Bond. The other thing is I think they want to raise the point that technology advances really, really quickly. So 3 months when you're gone is like a lifetime of internet time like we have now. And they really want to sell the point of technology has changed the game of spying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I absolutely adore the line of I can do more in my pajamas before my first cup of Earl Grey than you can do a year in the field. And he's like, why do you need me? Because every now and then a trigger needs to be pulled or not pulled. It's hard to tell in your pajamas. One of my favorite exchanges in the whole movie.
Okay,
of a sea of them.
That fucking
here's
kid,
the thing,
Ian, I gotta say this. That fucking kid is. That's.
You mean Matt Smith's younger brother?
That fucking kid is so fucking hot.
Okay.
Oh,
Anyway,
No. I'm gonna fucking say this. I don't give a shit.
No, dude, don't.
It's amazing.
We're trying to
It's
have a
amazing.
conversation. All right. Anyway, so. All right. I get where you're coming from with the whole internet time moves fast, but how the hell did he get to the point where he's like, the I guess general or whatever you want to call it, the commander of all the other tech guys? Bond had never seen him before. Like 3 months or a year or whatever. He's risen that much, and like the time span is just. It feels like to me. It feels like you have one script where Bond's gone for at least 2 to 3 years. And it feels like you have one script where he's gone for 2 to 3 months. And these are different versions of the same story, and then they just kind of got mushed together throughout the different rewrites.
I see where you're coming from with that. I'd still raise my first point as a defense, though, because it's still kind of a traditional Bond thing of, we know how that would work logically. But the thing that they're doing here isn't meant to be so much, 3 months in real life, this is how things would change and we're doing Bond realistically. It's more of Bond's gone for a period of time. It doesn't matter how much or how little it is, as much as you get what they want to do with it in a meta sense.
To that point...
Yeah, it's getting old Grant Morrison-y. It's like it's speaking to the audience.
Well, okay, like maybe if I like backtrack, like when Spy Who Loved Me came out, right before that Bond was doing terribly. It was losing a lot of its money. So when Spy Who Loved Me finally was released, and they made a shit ton of money off of that, one of the most important things about that film is the opening scene where Bond jumps off a cliff, like the company was doing, and then he parachutes to safety with the triumphant music. It's there to perfectly encapsulate the feeling of the company at the time, not because the scene makes any sense in context.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that as well.
It's all symbolism and shit.
Well,
it's all symbolism.
Here's my thing. And I just completely lost my thing. What the fuck was I gonna say?
You're gonna say that you love me with the burning
No,
passion.
I was actually gonna say something intelligent for once, and I don't remember what it was.
Sorry.
Oh, how shameful! How terribly sad that you'll once again lose the opportunity to say something smart.
Now you guys go ahead and talk for a minute. I'm gonna hold
Okay.
off on this. Oh wait, never mind. Go ahead. I forgot again.
Okay, well, I get what you're saying, Steve, about the symbolism and this transcendent idea, but that doesn't work in the context of the film. A lot of what you're talking about relates to the history of Bond in the real world as a character and how the actual world works and how Bond's a commentary on that. But just the tone of it feels so wrong, and I really felt pulled out. At first of this movie, I was really sucked in, I gotta admit. That opening action scene was great.
It is fantastic.
But once he starts coming back, there are all these line drops, and it got really confusing to me because I wasn't sure how long he was gone for. And it's something that took me out. So in the context of the film completely on its own, I do think it's a significant problem.
Well, I'll
Yes.
say something,
Okay, it's a fair point.
Yeah, but
I'll say
one
something
thing
to
that
defend Ian that I agree with a little bit was there's a weird editing transition where it's kind of hard to tell if any time has passed because there's usually in a movie where a significant chunk of time passes, they'll do a fade to black or some kind of sweeping establishing shot, or they'll do a year thing.
Uh-huh.
Would have kind of been unnecessary to do a time thing because it's only been 3 months. But okay, so we got one shot of M writing Bond's obituary, which can't be that long after he's been declared dead.
2-3 weeks max.
Maximum. But the next shot is her driving to go meet Mallory, which takes place all that time later.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no like, it looks like it's taking place the morning after, which it's not. That's my biggest thing in terms of what Ian is saying. That's my biggest issue. Can I mention, one funny thing while we're at this part of the movie? One funny thing I noticed. So Bond goes to God knows where to hide out from MI6, who's declared him dead. He goes to some fucking backwater place that nobody knows about. Nobody checks up on that. It looks so rural that there isn't a cell phone in miles. Right? He's living in like this shanty shack with like wool holding up the walls, fucking some foreign chick. And he goes to this bar, and again, bar looks mad sketchy. He's like playing some game where he's trying to keep a scorpion from stinging him, about to take a swig of whiskey or whatever that is. Next morning, he wakes up in the bar, and this flat screen HD TV is on the wall. What the fuck?
Okay, let me say one more thing about the time span and why I think it's problematic. I just went on my whole thing about how it's problematic for the film and the characters in and of themselves, and that's still part of it, but one of the big themes in this movie is, like Steve was saying, the progression of time and stuff, and it's just, it just doesn't fit, because I don't care what you say, 3 months isn't a long time. Even in the technology world, 3 months is not that long a time. And we don't see anything to indicate why it's such a big deal.
Well, I just remember what I was going to say.
And another thing, one more thing.
It's something similar. Well, hang on, let me say this before I forget. Again. So, this is only Daniel Craig's third Bond movie. And if you watch Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, it's basically a two-parter. It's all about him tracking down Quantum and getting revenge for the death of Vesper Lynd. Mm-hmm. And it's very much so kind of a Bond Begins type of thing. Casino Royale opens with him getting his 00 number. It's the story of him proving himself to M and proving what it takes to be a secret agent and why not everybody does it. And that's what those movies are about. And then the next Bond movie, after we have this two-part Bond Begins type story, is like a Dark Knight Returns type thing for James Bond, where he's been out of action for a little while and he's kind of reacclimating himself to being 007. And it was kind of weird to watch it as a Bond fan, because I was like, we just got through 2 movies of Bond origin, and now we're just right to Dark Knight Returns Bond. Well, that was my issue.
Yeah, I agree.
Funny enough, that's just kind of been the vein with the Batman movies and other things. It's like, start up, middle, fucking Dark Knight.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically Batman, but without the mask and better abs. And that's another thing. He through the whole film, he acts like he's winded and he's, sick and fat, and the motherfucker still has a body that can shatter fucking diamonds. How the fuck is he still out of shape?
I thought he looked pretty fucked up, to be honest.
He looks he looks fucking proper fit. He hasn't literally didn't change at all physically speaking. So he did something. He kept himself healthy. Maybe it's the wound. I don't know. It's how.
I think there was a lot in a similar way to Bruce Wayne's knee in Dark Knight Rises, and I don't want to spend any time on Dark Knight Rises. So please, Steve, I'm talking to you here. Please ignore the point. Ignore the example. Anyway, I think similar to Batman's knee in Dark Knight Rises, the gunshot wound in the shoulder, I think it's more psychosomatic than it is supposed to be a physical wound.
Absolutely.
That's something I really got a big sense from, and I thought that was one of the more intriguing aspects of the film, where it was holding him back more psychologically than it was physically.
Hold on.
Because when he first gets shot, he's still fine. He's still going against and beating the shit out of the dude, and it's not causing him any problems. And months later, it's causing him more trouble than it was immediately after it happened, and that doesn't seem feasible to me if it's just supposed to be a physical injury. I think it was very much a psychosomatic thing.
Oh, absolutely.
That's true, but with Batman it makes sense, because the motherfucker got fucking shot in the torso.
What?
Well,
Wait,
okay.
Batman, it makes sense
what I was
because
gonna
James
say-
Bond got shot in the torso. Go ahead.
I mean,
Steve.
I was
No,
Batman.
Batman's
Thing I'm
leg
trying to
in
say
Dark
that-
Knight Rises. Hold on. I didn't want to spend time on this, but Batman's leg in Dark Knight Rises is fucked because he fell from a building when he tackled Dent, Milan. Okay, anyway, go ahead, Steve.
I was just gonna say, like, well, Bruce Wayne had like 8 years of time where that wound really set in, and James Bond only had a matter of months. And one of the timeline issues that I agree with Zazabor that's a little bit different from your complaint is that we have those 2 Bond origin films, and we have a Bond that's really young and really new, and just now getting 00 status. He's the new hotshot agent, and he immediately becomes the old dinosaur. And at least even in the meta sense, it doesn't make any sense.
It's very strange, and also it's kind of disappointing. And here's the thing that I've kind of learned to make peace with it. He's technically been a 00 for 6 years on Skyfall's timeline because technically Quantum of Solace takes place in 2006. Not that there's any indication of that in the movie. It could be 2008, but it technically takes place in 2006. So he's been 007 for about 6 years, but it's weird being an audience watching it because we saw him become 007, and it would have been really nice if these movies would have come out like they should every 2 years, and we would have had just a good traditional Bond movie in between there, so we could have one more of like just Daniel Craig's James Bond, deal with it, and then we get this one. That's what I would have preferred. But here's the thing.
The weird thing about it is, because like you said, Casino Royale. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was finished. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, because like you said, Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace are basically one movie. And there's pretty blatant indications that Casino Royale is 2006. So even though Quantum comes out 2 years later, it's all still within that 1 year just because of the way those films are structured.
Absolutely.
So it literally has been 6 year of a time jump for James Bond where we haven't seen his adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a problem because we don't get any progression with this guy.
It's like the X-Men films.
I want IDW to do a James Bond miniseries taking place in those 6 years. That would fix it. That'd be great.
IDW is just kind of become like, hey, you like a thing with plot holes? We'll fill those plot holes with gold.
Is that what they are?
I think plot gaps. I think plot gaps is the proper term there, Milan.
Yeah, it's not a hole.
Whatever. Whatever they
there.
fill it, whatever they shove
Milan,
the gold into, yeah.
All right, so we've all been talking about intelligent things, and I want you to be able to get in on this. So I'm going to give you a challenge.
Yeah.
Say something about Skyfall that isn't related to the time thing, because I feel this is a fairly settled thing. We all agree it's kind of weird, and I think it's more of a problem than anyone else does. But Milan, go ahead and take us to a different thing, and here's the challenging part. That thing cannot involve anyone's attractiveness to your sexual preferences.
All right, fine. God, Ian, you're all right, fine. Well, the thing with Skyfall that I really liked is kind of the overall bad guy plot. It's really quite modern. Yes, I know. Hello?
Yeah,
we
can hear you.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's essentially...
Silva's hacking into our Skype call!
Bloody right. Silva's whole fucking deal.
Everybody turn off your thermostats!
Yeah, what? Silva in his own way was kind of a fascinating villain, kind of a comment on that whole what if drone warfare was taken over by the bad guys. Sure, it's all right when the government does it, but what if a guy who can literally control a legion of stuff...
That's not a thing that happens at all.
Well, it's not literal drone warfare, but it's a commentary on that kind of technology, just sitting from behind a laptop and causing just shit to happen. And Silva is... I like the fact it kind of goes back to that really outlandish Bond villain. Because we had the French... Yeah, because we had the French guy with the bleeding eye in the first two films. And sure, he did that whole crush your nuts with a rope thing. And that's kind of fucked up, but he wasn't a Bond villain. He was a fucking Jason Bourne
Really? I completely disagree.
Well, like, he had the elements
Let
of...
Let Milan go.
Sorry.
He had the elements of Bond, definitely, because it was essentially Hannibal with a bleeding eye, but it's it wasn't exactly it didn't have the fancifulness as other Bond villains usually have. The extravagance. I mean, Goldfinger, fuck, it's in the name. Spectre, all these very larger than life supervillain like archetypes. And with the first 2 James Bond movies, it was a little bit too real. It was like, not to say, that real.
Back to Skyfall. We get what you're saying. Get back to Skyfall.
I understand. But with Silva, he had that whole bravado thing going on. He had that whole strutting down the fucking long hallway scene. He managed to garner your attention. He had pathos. He had, a physical deformity that made him stand out in your mind. He had like a weird quasi-gay thing.
Can I cut in real quick?
Oh, I'm serious, but he...
No, can I cut in just real quick?
Oh, go ahead.
I was slightly disappointed. This isn't really a complaint. This is just me going, aw. I was slightly disappointed they never brought the physical deformity thing back in after the one time he showed
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it was used for emphasis. I mean, sure, he has a droopy face because half of his fucking jaw melted off when he tried to bite down on the suicide pill. But it's kind of shown, it's not overused. It's not like, hey, look at my weird, ugly face, aren't I creepy? It's kind of, he takes out the, I know, it's used for emphasis. It's like, look what you've done to me, this is what this is what the agency has done to me, this is why I'm essentially butt-fucking you in the ass, you motherfuckers.
Exactly.
That it's not, it's there, it has this kind of lull-filled, scar thing, it has that element, that extravagance, but it's subverted and it's used for something, it's not just there. It's not like, I just got a scar because that will help you remember me. It's actually,
it's relevant to the plot.
Something. Yeah, it's relevant to his character development.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you kind of, it's interesting because, like Bill mentioned, usually James Bond films always like globe-trotting and whatever, but this film kind of ends where James Bond began, essentially, in his family home. And he's fighting this kind of outlandish villain in, like, fucking Wales. And it's it's such a magnificence. It's just such a great villain hero kind of dynamic. It's a lot of fun. It's James Bond, and it feels like James Bond. It's the first Daniel Craig movie that I thought was a genuine James Bond film. The other 2 I was just kind of like, yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me can I just jump in real quick because it's relevant to what Milan was just talking about in terms of Silva feeling like a classic James Bond villain.
Can I jump in right after you then?
I think we may or may not be talking about the same thing, so let me know. Okay, so Silva's fantastic. I love him to death. He's one of my favorite James Bond villains. I think he's wonderfully flamboyant. I love Javier Bardem's performance. If you were ever to be like, we're going to cast the James Bond villain, who should we get? That guy. He is a Bond villain to a T. And my only... Well, okay, I have 2 problems with him, and one of them is a plot thing that I'm sure Ian will mention later, so I'll let him mention it. The other thing is a James Bond fan thing. Alright, so there's a scene where Silva's being interrogated by M and Bond, and I think this is after he pulls out the dentures and the face comes down, and M calls him Silva, and he goes, no, use my real name. And I was like, ooh, real name, who is this guy? And the first thought in my head was, Blofeld. He's going to be Blofeld. He's got a similar facial disfigurement. He's got, he hates MI6. He's all about unifying the world under his own power by reaching out his tentacles across the globe. That's what Spectre did back in the 60s. So I was like, oh god, he's a modern Blofeld. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, I'm so great. This is so great. This is great for a 50th anniversary Bond movie. And then the scene ends, and I'm like, oh, M's going to tell us his name is Stavro Blofeld. And then his name is just Tiago. And I'm like, what? Why was that so built up? Why was it? It's played so over dramatically that by the time you get to it, it's like, oh great. But it's like in the back of my mind, I'm like, did they do that on purpose? Were we supposed to think, oh, is it Blofeld? Is he Scaramanga? Is he anybody? And then they were just going to disappoint us.
Isn't it like a reference to the books or something?
No.
What do you mean?
Not like the whole Yago thing.
No.
No, like there's nothing about Silva that's in the books.
No, he's a totally original villain, which is great because now we can put him in the echelon of great Bond villains on his own. But I don't know. It seemed like they were building him up to be a reinvention of somebody we knew already, and I was kind of let down that they didn't do that because it's so overplayed.
Okay.
But Steve, go ahead.
Steve, and then I want to get back to Bill. Like, I want to hear Bill's complaint that he thinks I'll address, but let's go to Steve first.
Okay, well, just to ride that train of Silva, just something that bugged me about him, not so much of a problem, but something that we needed, is a scene where Silva's just by himself. Because Silva's only in this movie to interact with the protagonists. He's always there as a threat to the people that are immediately next to him, and we never get a chance for him to really reflect, because this guy is a character, and he's there as a reflective piece, and he's there on a commentary of a lot of things, but he's also has this human element to him that we never get to really explore. And like you said, with this face deformity thing, that we don't get to see it more than once, what we needed was maybe one scene, just one scene of him probably prepping in a helicopter or something, getting ready to fly over to Skyfall, and he's just pulling the thing out of his face and looking at it. Something like that, to let us know this guy has some thoughts and feelings and something's there.
I think that was kind of undermined the whole message of him taking that whole thing out in the first place. And I guess that's just kind of a sign of a good villain. You want to see more of him, because when you want that, if you want to see more of the villain than you do the hero, that's a sign of a good fucking villain right there.
Yeah.
Well, see, like I don't agree with that. I don't think it would undermine him.
I just wanted to see the thing more, like the deformity more, because once he reveals it, it's actually a really important part of his character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I just wish it had come up in the climax somehow.
I agree.
Yeah, like, I wish there was some kind of moment where Silva's at least not just considering it, or at least making us remember that it's still there. Something else I want to mention, because I'm not sure if we'll get to it, because this review is probably going to end up being kind of longer, is the kind of homosexual thing that was going on in the opening scene when he shows up.
Yeah.
Because people make fun of that.
Yeah.
And I don't like that they do, simply because I read this really fantastic essay on the idea of a nemesis, and how two characters that are complete perfect pairings, kind of like Batman and the Joker, Sherlock Holmes, Moriarty, Superman, Lex Luthor, it's inherently a homosexual relationship, not in the sense that there's a physical attraction, but in the sense that two people that complete each other so much and on such opposite terms, there has to be an element of attraction that's there inherently. And Bond's always about making all the ideas that are present in a text really flamboyant and really obvious. So why not just amp up that nemesis thing by overtly making a slight sexual thing, just to tell you that there's already a connection there that we're going to establish?
Well, there is.
Oh, I really like that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I never thought of that.
He actually did that. I mean, didn't he just kind of start feeling up James Bond's thighs? And
That's what the point Steve just made was.
I know. But let me describe it. Basically, does all that.
Oh God!
And
Shut up! You let me describe it.
Drove me over on that line. The thing that really drove me over it with that is Bond says, "How do you know this is my first time?" And sure, that's a funny one-liner that James Bond has throughout the film. But it's cool because it's a 50th anniversary, and we've had other characters that are perfect foils for James Bond in the past. And this guy, Silva, he draws on a lot of old Bond plot threads, like James Bond being trapped somewhere or being gone out of action for a number of months, while interrogating a plot is the same thing as Die Another Day. Silva's really similar to GoldenEye's 006. Like, there's elements of classic James Bond-ness in him that's inherent in the Nemesis formula. And the fact that James Bond calls back to it, it's a weird double entendre, and I don't think they were thinking that hard about it, but the fact that you can is interesting.
Well, I just thought it was just hold on, Bill. I just thought it was just like, hey, we got a bisexual James Bond now. That's neat.
Well, let me say what my thought was, because I also thought that there was more going on with that line than just, oh, maybe Bond sucked a cock or two. But I thought...
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for that.
Well, I thought what maybe they were referring to was the fact that they had both escaped death and were both perceived as dead. And that was something that they shared in common. I thought that
No, they just want to bone each other, that's all.
That was what I thought was going on. I also love, in terms of the whole Nemesis thing, I love that they had that in common. Silva is kind of what James Bond could become if he really became disenfranchised with 006. He could become the worst supervillain on the planet if you really think about it. And I think that idea is fascinating.
Yeah, well, that kind of whole sexual angle and that the hero could become the greatest villain ever. It's really in a lot of like really well-known epic rivalries. We have the whole Batman and the Joker thing. You got the weird sexual innuendo there with the Joker just fucking perving out Batman in certain books. You got the whole Batman Lex Luthor Superman thing with Lex Luthor kind of making a clone of him and just beating him up shirtless, all that stuff. You got a weird sexual undertone. See, at times, like, from a bisexual guy's point of view, that can be interesting. Like, it's like, oh, that's sexually clever, some, weird sexual stuff. But, it can also be seen in a rather not pleasant light, because it could just be seen as, oh, let's make a gay guy the villain. Oh, he's extra ooky because he likes cock. But then,
let me get in on this.
But let me finish. But at first I was frightened because, like, when he was rubbing his thighs, I thought, like, oh, great, another fucking, like, oh, he's gonna be a pervy gay villain. That's wonderful. But then it's just James Bond's just like, like, maybe I sucked the cock or two, and I'm like, yay!
Verbatim quote there, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. But like that's.
I think Daniel Craig could deliver it in the proper way.
Oh fuck yeah, definitely. But that's the thing. You got. I like the fact that they didn't resort to that whole icky gay man as the villain stereotype and actually hinted to a fact that maybe our hero isn't as straight as he... Maybe it's just kind of James Bond trying to get his own back, like he's getting awkwarded out and he just has to say something to, like,
I think that's more what's going on there. No,
I know, maybe, but, like, deep down in my heart, Daniel Craig likes the cock. Sometimes.
Okay, anyway. Let me get in on this whole gay train here. So... I like it in this. I like the bisexual angle that they put on in this. It's something that I generally resist, though, when most things do it. It occasionally works with the Joker and Batman. I think it's way too overused. It's okay in, like, Sherlock, but it's not the most interesting part of that relationship between Sherlock and Moriarty to me.
Tell that to Tumblr. Tell that to Tumblr, man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it doesn't work as well, is because it's too much of a trope that I feel like people are just doing with villains and heroes to try to, like, capitalize on a market that, like, likes slash fiction.
Well, there is that scene in Sherlock Series 3, Episode 1, Ian.
Yeah.
I know.
And that's the thing. A part of me, like, appreciates that, and, like, yay, let's pander to the fags. But the thing is, another part of me is just like, yeah...
I think it's an overcorrection.
I want to hear Stephen Moffat say that now. Let's pander to the fags.
No, let me finish.
Let me finish. The
thing is... No, dude, let me get...
Okay.
I think it's an overcorrection on the part of Hollywood writers. For years we've had films where gay guys are very stereotypical, gay, bi, whatever, are very stereotypical, and they're like always this one certain type of very feminine man character, and it's very offensive, similar to, like, cowardly, big-lipped black people in old Hollywood and stuff like that. And so I think now it's an attempt to, like, bring the gay characters into the light and make them more well fleshed out and stuff. But I think it's, like, happening at too much of a scale. It's like an overcorrection. Because, like, someone did a study on this, and this is with TV, but it still works for my argument here. If you were to take all the characters on television as a representative portion of America, all right, American television, take all the gay all the characters on television, and look at that as a good representation of America, and then you were to look at all the gay characters, there are like 200% more gay people in that sampling than there are in America as a whole.
Well, the thing is, it's just with that, it just sounds, no, it's ridiculous, because you have a group of like 10 or 20 fucking, straight, guys, like, who likes girls and girls that likes boys. You got, like, a bunch of hetero people, but you got, like, one, faggot friend in there. Oh, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, if you combine all the faggots together, there's too much faggotry on television,
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Well,
I'm just saying I think it's an overcorrection.
Like, because when you
it's not what I'm fucking saying. I think it's an overcorrection. I think that it's becoming a trope to introduce a lot more bisexual and gay characters, and it's not a problem that they're doing that. I just think it's an overcorrection that they're like trying too hard, and so we're getting more.
You're saying it's getting exploitive in a way, where it's becoming the cool thing to do.
Well, the thing is with that, like, it's. This is from a gay guy's point of view. Look, it's not like I'm not fucking Justice Warrior or anything like that. This is just from my perspective as a guy who likes the cock. All right, basically. It's just
Why can't your dad walk in when you say things like that?
Because the thing is, I never say shit like that because either my brother or my dad's in the room. It's like, oh, I say that, like, oh, he's a faggot, burn him. Anyway, like I'm saying, they have kind of
that'd be an awkward episode of the show, wouldn't it?
Definitely, it will one day happen. But anyway, like it's. You might see that whole thing. Oh, there's weird hints to maybe two characters might have a bit of chemistry. They do this. There's a good example. Teen Wolf. It's used a lot on television and in a lot of movies. Yeah. And basically, what it is, it's just like it is kind of very exploitative in a way. In a way, it's fun, and you got a lot of fun like gay / fiction or whatever, or just gay fan art or whatever. That's wonderful. But that's the thing. It's just a brief hint. It's just to satisfy the fangirls and the gays in the audience that might hope and pretend in their heart of hearts that maybe there's something there. But no, not really. No matter as much as they might hint, it's essentially just like we're not going to have a proper gay, character. We're not going to have a genuine relationship and not stereotype it. But we won't have that. The characters will be strictly straight. And mostly white or whatever, and it's just like white is whatever. It's America. There's a lot of buckets, but anyway, it's just you'll have those brief hints to satisfy the faggots in the audience, but nowhere in any point will it actually manifest into anything genuine.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of it's like if people are gonna fucking comment on this, like, you fucking SJW, and it's not really. This is a genuine fact. I'm not one of those like Tumblr people. I'm not a fucking red pill either. I'm just saying like it's just there. Like it's just like fuck you. We'll hint. We'll throw you a bone or two, but you'll never get the steak.
Just to contradict that, I don't think anybody's putting that much thought into it. Which I think might be the problem, is what you're saying, because they're doing it to throw you a bone, but they're not really. But they're not putting any more thought into it. That's like, oh, won't that be cute? But they don't put. That's all they put into it.
Well, that's
so. I don't think there's any malevolent.
Guys, can we get back to Skyfall?
Sure, but let me just end this one point. The thing is with that is, yes, it might be kind of like secondhand, like, we'll throw them something. Like, it's cute and all, but then it's just like, then don't tease us if there's not anything going to be, if that plot point is not going to be touched on, if you're not going to, give us something about that, then don't waste our time, don't get our hopes up for hoping like maybe there'll be something like that. If you're gonna have straight characters, have straight characters.
Okay.
Oh,
so
don't me. Don't
Skyfall.
Fucking okay me. Fuck.
Okay.
To get back to Skyfall, just to segue a little bit better, I agree with what Ian's saying there, and part of why it works here in Skyfall specifically is because there's an inherent question you have to ask when you have characters that are more obsessed with someone like their arch nemesis than they are with anyone else, like Sherlock to Moriarty's intelligence or Batman to the Joker's insanity. There's got to be a question that you ask when there's a character or protagonist that's this obsessed and this involved and this driven towards another person. And you can analyze that to death like we were doing just now, but part of why it works in Skyfall is because it's literally 30 seconds and it's done. There isn't more to it than that. And we can talk about it, sure, but it's more of there just to kind of raise a couple of questions here and there, and the film is on a bigger scope than that. And Silva's whole thing with being like a brother to Bond, and his twisted way of looking at M as his mother, that's all complemented by it, but it's not the crux of it.
Definitely.
Well, I also thought that in that way, I would have preferred if they would have gone the whole Blofeld route, in a way, because what you're saying is absolutely accurate. They're absolutely trying to do that with Bond and Silva, but it's a little weird because this is the first time they've met, and it's not like their nemesis with each other expands to more films than this. So it's a little bit strange that that they're doing that. So that's why I thought even more so that they were going to do that. So, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing that they decided to have that scene of, like, tell me my real name. Really bothered me in the theater. I was so mad.
All right. So I wanted to get back to this, because Bill, like, dropped a hint, and I want to hear him say it. So, Bill, what's your complaint about Silva?
Oh, his plot is all over the place. So... Let me just say this, because it's a cliche that I thought was killed years ago, but it apparently isn't. Hacking technology is not magic, guys. It's a science that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of insight, and you can't just hack anything if it's connected to the computer. So using the thermostat to blow up a building, I don't know. It seems so cheesy, and this is not a movie that has a lot of cheesy elements. I mean, there's a couple of fanciful things, like Milan said, but it's not a very cheesy movie. And I don't know if it's weird to have this moment where it's like, how do you blow up the office? He raised the thermostat really high. I know that's not exactly what happened. I'm kind of oversimplifying, but that's basically what it is. That's my problem, is that they rely way too much on, he's a hacker, so he can do anything. Now, that being said, while that definitely bugs me...
He used his flight simulator technology.
Yes, exactly. No, well, that bugs me. I love what it means in regards to James Bond and in regards to the ending. I love the way this movie ends in terms of, how are we going to defeat this guy? Well, we can't use technology. So let's just kill him let's fight him in the most basic place possible. And I loved that.
So, like, here's the thing about Bond's little plan.
What's your problem with it?
Okay, so he calls Q and has him leave a breadcrumb trail to where he's taking M.
What is the breadcrumbs, anyway?
They're like little trackers for Silva to find.
Well, what is it? Like, are they just...
It's like little... Don't worry about it. I don't care what it is. It's some kind of technological thing that only Silva will be able to find.
Right.
To lead to where Bond is holding M. What I don't understand is, why doesn't he have him lead Silva into a trap?
That is a very good point.
Well,
Like, it makes no sense. Like, it's a signal only Silva can follow. Alright, well, why don't you set up a trap instead of just leading him to where you're going?
Alright, I'll pose this. This motherfucker's really
is...
smart. Hang on, Malone, let me say this. This guy's really smart, so I think part of what they're concerned about is, if we mobilize too big of any kind of operation, we're going to blow the whole thing. So let's take our chances and have it just be the three of us against this guy, and we'll defeat him, as opposed to, if they did pose a trap, maybe he would have figured... Like, let's say they would have attracted him to Skyfall, and they would have surrounded the entire area with agents and guns. They implant a bunch of farmers around the neighborhood who are just agents. Let's say that, because that's been done in spy movies before, where they'll do stuff like that. I think their concern, and this isn't said, this is just my own spiel, is that if we do anything like that, he's going to pick up on it, and we're going to blow this chance.
Well,
Definitely.
They do actually say something like that. And one of the other things is that the government and the people really are on the side of MI6 anyway, so even if Bond's, like, set a trap, no one's going to follow through with it. And also, the breadcrumb trail he leaves is not so much tracking as much as Bond is saying, leave a bunch of premises to which only Silva can deduce that the conclusion is that they're heading for Skyfall. He's not giving him a trail, he's giving him evidence that suggests they're there. So
no, dude, like, you see a little road map.
I think that's more...
That's just, like, figurative on the computer screen, because, like, everything on there is stylized computer magic. What he really, like, in context says is make it look like we're going here, so Silva will believe that he figured it out himself.
Gotcha.
Okay, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was really...
Because they made that whole point about ditching the car because it has a tracker on it and stuff. Like, it's not straight up tracking him. It's about, like, Silva figuring it out.
Right. Well, still, if you're gonna, like, try to play to Silva's ego, which is really clever, like, that's the thing that I guess got me about it, is Bond goes to all this trouble to make sure that they can't be found where he's actually taking M and everything. And, I mean, she dies anyway, and I think she should have died when Silva meant to kill her, because she has that cool speech and everything.
Oh, no, I completely disagree with that.
Yeah. Anyway, but,
me
like,
too.
Alright, fair enough. But anyway, so he goes to all this trouble to make sure that he can't find M, and then he just goes to the house and that's where he wanted Silva to go in the first place. I'm like, well, that's really silly. Why wouldn't you just use that opportunity to play to his ego and lure him into a trap?
But what would the trap be, though? They're not working with the government. They're on their own.
Yeah.
Use a fucking CB radio and set up a trap with some fucking local cops.
Oh yeah, let's bring those local Scottish cops in and fight a mega terrorist.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, there's got to be a low-tech way to set up a trap, guys.
No, but it's not a matter of the technology. It's a matter of they're not working with MI6. There's nothing they could have done.
If they went to the cops will just call MI6 and say, "Aye, we got those fugitives you were wanting."
No, I really think
talking about werewolves.
I'm thinking you guys are giving this thing way too much credit because you like it that much.
No, it makes
no,
sense.
I mean, like, really,
in the
what
context of what happened.
sense.
Like,
yeah, Ian.
Like, let's say, Ian, let's say you're writing this movie, and you say, okay, well, Bond's gonna set up a trap. What could they possibly do in any way that is less campy than just bringing him out to the middle of nowhere and attacking? That Silva wouldn't figure out.
Fucking James Bond family.
No, just bring him out to the middle of nowhere and have a bunch of fucking people. Like, that's the thing they did in the first place to arrest Silva.
But he wanted to be arrested, and he knew about it. And
also, Bond was working with MI6 at that point.
I'm just saying, like, it seems like there was such an easy way around this.
But,
like,
what
you
is
don't
the
have
easy
to involve
way?
MI6. Fucking U.S. government.
They're not, but there's a line in the movie where they're like, the CIA, we're not on good terms with the CIA.
Yeah, because you fuckers gave the list to this guy.
Right,
I'm pretty sure they have a vested interest in capturing him now.
Yeah, but Ian, also, if they would have contacted the CIA, Silva would have immediately known what was going on and that they were launching a trap.
I'm just saying, it seems like there's a low-tech way to do this.
Because
Silva's whole thing is that he knows magic computers. So it seems like there's a low-tech way. Get a fucking ham radio.
I'm gonna echo what you said about us liking it too much and say maybe you just don't like it enough that you want this to be a problem. Because I don't think it is.
It's seriously, if it occurred to me as something that annoyed me and distracted me from the thing, then I think it's an actual problem.
But, like, you're not offering any way that it would really work. Like, seriously, even if he got, like, a ham radio and he got a bunch of cops in town to corner him up, Silva would still be able to figure that out because cops have to report where they're going.
Fucking mercenaries. I don't know. Like, I don't have...
Really? Mercenaries.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just saying... No, like, listen, you guys are fucking nagging my examples to death, so I'm not going to give you more fucking examples.
Hold on. Ian, I think you might be right, because why didn't they go... M is, like, fucking been working at that agency for years.
But no
I'm
one
sure
trusts her anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she can find some people that trust her, like some close personal friends or something. Like, can you get a couple of young bucks together?
That's kind of the point, is that
she's on trial when she's kidnapped. I mean, really.
I know she's on trial, but just because your friend is on trial, it's not like you're gonna... Just because if one of us just managed to, be... If we went on trial, it's not like if I called you to fight some terrorists, you'd say no. It's like it's.
I don't know. It seemed like this is. I guess goes back to my whole thing. Is part of some things in this movie feel like two scripts, because it really seems like Bond's trying to lure him into a trap, which I guess you could say Skyfall is.
Oh, it totally is.
But at the same time, it's a really bad trap then, because he doesn't even know there are going to be 3 people there. He thinks that there are going to be 2. And he knows one of them has, like, next to no field experience that's useful at this point. So, he is essentially setting up for, at best, a death trap.
I don't know what you're saying. Are you saying Silva's doing that or Bond's doing that?
Bond. Because he didn't know the housekeeper would be there. And he knows M
doesn't
have
what do you mean he doesn't know the housekeeper's going to be there?
He walks in the house and he goes, "You're still alive?"
Oh, that's true. Can I share a brief anecdote, completely unconnected to anything? So I see, I'm sure you know this, but I'll just say this for anybody listening. And Ian, I'm pretty sure I told you about this. So when they walk in, and Bond sees Kincaid again after how many years? You know why his reveal is so dramatic? He was supposed to be Sean Connery. It was supposed to be Sean Connery. And the reason why they didn't do it, as far as I can tell, I think there might have been some Connery doesn't really like James Bond anymore kind of thing going on.
Yeah, it was.
Sean Connery has become the Alan Moore of Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely. But anyway, the official reason they gave is that they thought it would be too distracting to have two James Bonds on screen, and I'm like, who cares? It's a 50th anniversary movie.
Perfect.
It would have been absolutely.
It would have been perfect, yeah.
I mean, Albert
It
Finney
actually
is
would have
great.
made the movie's ending better if it was a past James Bond instead of some other actor.
Yeah.
I mean, Albert Finney is great in the role, and you absolutely buy that he has this connection to James Bond. But I love that scene where they're out in the field, and because he doesn't know what he does for a living, and he's like, "Now remember what I taught you. Keep it cocked," or whatever he says. And he just obliterates it without a second thought. I also like that because it's a good indication that Bond has gone through a little bit of a change, because earlier in the movie he's having a lot of trouble with aiming his gun, and it's a nice conclusion to that.
Goes back to my point about the whole psychosomatic thing.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I love that.
And once again, Dark Knight Rises, that's kind of why he's able to walk suddenly.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's cool that both of these movies came out in the same year, too. Dark Knight Rises and Skyfall.
Definitely.
And I guess, one thing I have heard, and I can't disagree with it, because I've said this before, I think Dark Knight Rises is the Dark Knight movie that we deserve, but not the one we needed right now. But anyway, I heard a lot of people say that the problem with Dark Knight Rises is it came out the same year as a better Dark Knight movie, and they refer to Skyfall when they say that. And I understand that. I do see where that criticism comes from.
It's weird.
Because
That's interesting.
This is really carbon. This is very carbon copy, and it was intended to be of the Dark Knight.
I don't know if I'd call it a carbon copy.
Yeah, not a carbon copy. It's in the
certainly
Siberia
inspired.
The villain finds an elaborate way. The villain finds an elaborate way to get himself arrested so he can escape from jail with what he wants.
Well, that's also the Avengers plot.
Yeah, see?
Well, no, I don't think. Well, I agree with you that element is certainly similar to Dark Knight, but in terms of the story and the tone of the thing, I don't think that that's accurate at all. Because yes, it's a little bit of a darker movie, but it's also, as Milan said, very colorful and visually evocative.
No, I'm talking about story.
Hang on. Let me say this too. But guess what? Dark Knight is also heavily inspired by
James Bond.
James Bond. The opening
it's a circle. It's a circle.
Opening of the
The
Dark Knight
snake
Rises,
eats the head of the tail.
The opening of the Dark Knight Rises is almost completely lifted from the opening of License to Kill. So I will leave us off there in terms of Dark Knight comparisons, because I knew they'd come up.
Well, I mean, it's. I don't care that it's similar to the Dark Knight, because the Dark Knight was similar to Nolan, and you can make arguments that James Bond was supposed to be similar to Batman in the original creation of the character, or at very least in the evolution of the character over years and years. They borrow from each other. It's like Star Wars and Green Lantern.
Well, I think that's also how this franchise has lasted for 50 years. Because if you go back through the history, the way it's survived is by adapting to the time. I just mentioned License to Kill. A lot of Bond fans don't like License to Kill. I love it. And one of the reasons is because they were like, well, let's throw James Bond in an 80s action movie and see what that's like. And I thought it turned out fantastic. And that was because they threw James Bond into a situation of the time. And you've got a little bit of that going on here as well. Let's throw James Bond into a hacker situation. And again, I think that they gave him some magical powers in that way, but
it worked out a lot better than Live Free or Die Hard.
Absolutely. It makes
definitely
more sense with James Bond than Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
So that's
I guess to even go more with that comparison, like Roger Moore's time as James Bond could be equated to 60s Adam West Batman.
That's true.
I suppose so. But, is hacking still, like, a big... obviously it is, but, in cinema-wise, is it still, like, a big, awesome motif? Because remember in the 90s and the early 2000s, that was, you always had that quick hacker scene, like, I'm typing as fast as I can!
Yeah.
Things are happening!
Well, that's why I thought that we had gotten rid of this cliche, and then Skyfall was like, nope, we still have it. We don't have.
I'll say this much. I don't know, the thermostat thing in the office blowing up doesn't work very well, but the scene in when they're trying to decode Silva's laptop or whatever.
That was weird too.
Well, no, that one worked a little bit better because the idea was as soon as they started accessing the program, like that had all his information in it, and trying to like break into it, that is what was implanting the ability for him to implanting a program that took over all their systems.
Right, absolutely.
Because like all that really happens is all the doors open. And the little message comes up that says, "Not such a clever boy." That's the only thing that technically the program does.
Sure.
So I guess that kind of works.
Yeah, well, my issue with that
now, as far as Silva killing his guards after the door opens, even though he doesn't have a gun or anything, I'm a little
He is still James Bond, so I can see how he could kill his guards unarmed.
I would have preferred if we got to see it happen.
I was reminded of that scene from Iron Man 2 where Ivan Vanko is just sitting under the two guards and they're like hanging and their blood is dripping down. Like, it's how the fuck did he do that?
He's Russian, dude. He has a pet parakeet.
I guess so.
Dude, that guy looks so much like my dad when he was younger. It's ridiculous. It's like
that guy is Milan. Let's just say that.
Well, no, but that guy just like whoever played him, just like he acts.
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke. He looked like my dad when I was a little kid. Like my dad, like. It's so weird. Like, I'm like, that's Dad! Mickey, that's Dad from when we were kids in Moscow. He's a fucking dreadlock-wearing international supervillain pirate guy. This is awesome.
Terrifying.
It is. But also, my dad reminds me of that guy that recently died. The ugly one from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah. My dad is brown. Don't worry about it. It's Milan.
Well, I was going to say that's scary because my dad looks like Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr. without the mustache. So that means apparently your family's out to ruin mine.
Oh, definitely. Like, I was going to say this. I was going to save this for a better occasion, but, like, I've been secretly stalking you, and I'm going to destroy your family heritage, you bastard.
Okay, well, as soon as I'm like 20-something and my arc reactor gets implanted, we'll talk.
Wait, how old are you now?
Like 20-something.
Oh, okay. The arc reactor is going to be there soon.
Listen, there'll be blood in the water, and the sharks will come, and it'll be just a fun.
Yeah. And hopefully, it'll be a better movie than Iron Man 2.
I hope so.
I like that film. It has Dad in it. But anyway,
the only worst superhero Marvel movie is Thor: The Dark World. But anyway.
Oh, it has Man with Hammer in it. That is sexy.
Okay. Let me get back to Skyfall.
Back to Skyfall.
Because I wanted to jump on the scene Ian was talking about.
That fucking bag with the rat thing was amazing.
Hang on. Let me finish talking about this scene. So, Q is just like glancing over whatever the fuck that thing on the screen is. I don't know magical hacking ability, so I don't know what's going on up there. So James Bond's just like looking at it for a second. He's listening to Q talk. And then he looks at it and he goes, "Go in on that." What do you mean, go in on that? Zoom in? It's not an image of something that's just, it's not a video clip. It's a physical representation of what's going on in the hard drive. What do you mean, go in on it?
I don't think you understand this. Okay, see, Crack did a whole video about how wizards could not possibly exist in the modern world as Harry Potter proposes, which is why Harry Potter takes place in the 90s. So you can have wizards in the 2000s. We've got camera phones now. Someone's going to snap a fucking picture of those little kids. So instead, the wizarding world went over with a huge revolution, and now they have magical hacking powers as to, like, explain why they're able to levitate shit and do all these incredible things. It's all computers.
Well, Voldemort is in this movie, so I buy it.
Well, I think it's funny that you mentioned that scene, because I have a totally different problem with the way Bond works with that hacking, which is, on the corner of the screen, there's that street name that Bond mentions that's highlighted, just a little bit disjointed, and Q doesn't see it, but Bond does and mentions it and says go in on it, and that solves the whole thing.
It was really weird. Now,
and then the fact that it says not such a clever boy, despite the fact that Q is brand new and even Bond doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
How did Silva know to program that message?
Well, because he'd, like, hacked the systems and, like, had all of Bond's information, remember?
Yeah, but, like, how would he know specifically Q's the one doing it? If Bond wasn't there, no one was going to get it.
Yeah, they would have sat there for
He's
like
gonna
4
sit there
years.
staring at 3 highlighted words and not figure it out.
Well, if the judge's car hadn't blown up in fucking Dark Knight, then like Joker spent all that time going through decks of playing cards to find the Jokers and put them in the.
So true. Now,
You know,
you could like gone online and just bought like a whole deck of Joker cards.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but like you also got to remember, like here, this is one of my favorite comic strips ever, where someone's going through the line that was in all the Dark Knight trailers. It was like clothing is custom, no tags or labels, and then someone's just like, wait, so that means he sued his own clothing? And it just cuts to an image of Heath Ledger's Joker with like the scars and the makeup at the sewing machine, and he's like putting together this really elaborate suit.
Yeah, the Joker is a multitask. Like, you know, I just think Joker's grandma did it, or just some just old whore.
Hey,
Speaking
Ma-
of,
hey, Mama. Hey, Mima. I need you to do me a favor. I need you to sew me this octagon shirt.
All right then, you sweet boy. Oh, what's with the gay-ass fucking makeup, darling?
I'm an agent of chaos.
Oh, you're with... Oh, for fuck's sake, man. Don't use my fucking makeup then, you fucking cunt. So what... what color do you want?
Joker's just like a punk kid that takes his mom's lipstick.
Yeah.
that's the Joker in the Dark Knight. Can I go back to the movie?
And what the fuck did you do to your face, you fucking cunt? What the fuck?
You want to know how I got these scars?
Yes, you fucking... You walked into you masturbating with a knife or something, and you just... you know, it's just like he just did it to himself. I know who the Joker was. He's just some guy living in his mom's basement that was kind of above average intelligence. Then he looked in the mirror one day, you know what? Fuck it. Carved his face open, went off to his mom and said, make me a suit. Mom made him a suit. He shot the mom and went off and became the Joker. How
okay,
how
let's get back to Skyfall.
Can
Bill.
I say something? I love one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Silva pulls up Bond's file and he just lists through all of his faults, and I love the part where he goes, "Ooh, alcohol and substance abuse. Ooh, always a bad combination." And I was like, "Ooh, I like that we're pointing out that Bond has that because he would have to. He would definitely be an alcoholic." And they show substance abuse early in the movie with the pain medication, and that definitely strikes me as something he might have as well. So I love that moment.
Oh, definitely. Those.
It reminds me of I was listening to a podcast recently, and somebody pointed out that if Batman was going to operate like he does in the real world, he would have to rely on drugs in order to keep his body going and his mental capacity going to do that every day. I kind of want somebody to bring that into one of the stories now.
Yeah.
Batman.
Oh no, well that's just like, oh, drugs are bad, kids. But if
No, Batman Venom is genius.
it is genius. I love the story.
Is that what happens in that?
He gets addicted to Venom, the same stuff Bane is on.
Yeah.
Before Bane has it. It's back when it's still like an experimental drug.
No, I thought it was.
No.
I thought it happened post Nightfall.
No,
Anyway,
no.
yeah, he gets addicted to Venom, so it's Batman dealing with drugs.
Yeah, essentially, a little girl dies because he wasn't strong enough to lift a rock, and then he gets this drug treatment from a doctor, and it's the prototype for Venom.
I like that. I'm gonna read this story.
It's actually really good, but I'm talking about like in real life.
Who wrote that?
That was a Dennis O'Neil story from Legendary Dark Knight.
Dennis O'Neil, yeah. It's fucking great. It's a great book. But anyway, if you were gonna have like that type of, physicality every night, all these fucking, KGB, fucking FBI guys, like the field guys, they're all fucking addicted to drugs because you can't do that physically on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis and not fucking, painkillers alone, like all the, stitching up and all the injections. I mean, it's just some cops even do that, like, or some fucking MMA fighters. Some of them get like really hooked on the painkiller stuff.
Some of them take speed and stuff to keep going.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Batman would have to do that because if you were going to have that in the real world, literally going night after night, getting fucking shot at, attacked by dogs, fucking had the shit kicked out of you by ninjas, like of course you're gonna need some fucking, either steroids or some sort of painkiller, and that's kind of fascinating. I'd love to see that in a story somewhere, like in an Elseworld story where Batman is just kind of 85 years old, and he's a fucking essentially what Bane was at the end of at Batman Beyond. You know that episode where Bane is old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just have Batman.
Anyway, let's get back. Let's get back to Skyfall. We keep getting off of Skyfall, which is usually the red flag to let us know that we're about done talking about Skyfall. So let's go ahead and do. Does anyone else have anything that they wanted to make sure we talk?
Yes.
Can we talk about the song Skyfall?
Yes. I was about to say the
it's
same
such
thing.
a good song.
Oh,
I like that it doesn't have anything to do with the movie.
it's really?
Yes. What? Yeah, of
It's
course.
got
it
a
does.
lot to do with the movie. What
Did
are
you
talking
did
about?
you see the opening sequence with the tombstones and everything? Like that was so symbolic
No,
of
the
everything in the
opening
movie.
animation. The opening animation had a ton to do with the movie. I don't think the song had anything to do with the
Oh,
movie.
it absolutely does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't think so.
Oh, it absolutely does. It's all about, your home being invaded and being tested, and it's all about that shit, bro.
Symbolism, guys. It's symbolism. It has a lot of symbolism.
This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. Feel the darkness creeping in.
More than just the first 4 lines.
I know.
No, I'm
But
just trying to
anyway.
remember how the song goes.
But anyway,
I'll play it on my phone. How about that?
No.
No, because it's going to sound like shit.
Basically, I like the fact that this movie kind of brings back the classy Britishness, you know? When you think Britain, you think like, oh, fucking James Bond and all that shit. Instead, it kind of managed to...
That's what I think of when I think of Britain.
Yeah, but, well, when you think, it's a little bit more classic, England type of a thing. It's the kind of like, hey, let's get our feet out of the dirt. Well, it is the feet are plenty dirty, but the shoes are nice, essentially.
I really like that. Did you steal that from somebody, or did you come up with that?
No, I just have these brief moments of lucidity where I say something
If
vaguely
you didn't
beautiful.
come up with that, I'm going to be really mad, because I'm going to steal that and use it for stuff now. Because I
Well,
really like that saying.
Thank
It was a
you.
good
Like
saying, yeah.
I am the man that was only
Milan
positive.
is the king of the metaphors.
Exactly.
I'm going to find you, Milan. If I find out you didn't come up with that, I'm going to find you.
I literally just pulled that out of my ass just right
All
now.
right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, but the song Skyfall, I think, did have a lot to do with the character arc Bond was going through in the movie, and it's just a good song that's really classic, especially for the 50th anniversary. It doesn't feel like something out of place. It doesn't feel like something that's just there because it's popular now. Like, it's a timeless song.
Yeah.
I like that. I did like the song Skyfall. I just don't think it... I've got to, read the lyrics, apparently, then, because I just didn't think it had anything to do with the movie, but okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, go ahead and read the lyrics. It does make more sense once you know them. But
I
it
suppose
has a lot
that's
to do with the
fair.
song.
You know what this
We
movie
kind of
really...
jumped on your...
Because,
and when
I guess for me...
song, I
one
would
thing
read
I
the
wanted-
lyrics.
One thing I guess I want to mention, then, is I was really shocked that Skyfall ended up being, his family ranch, or whatever you want to call it. Because I was really, with a name like Skyfall, and the way that they set up the plot in the trailers, from what I remember, of, all these agents' names are being revealed and everything, I thought Skyfall was has anyone here seen Olympus Has Fallen?
Oh, yeah, it's like a code word. Yeah, it's like, Operation Skyfall.
I thought Skyfall was a code word for everyone's been exposed, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was supposed to mean. And then, they even do that little psych eval thing where the word association where the psychologist says Skyfall and Bond, gets up and leaves, and that was really cool. And it still worked with what they did. It's just the impression that I got from the song, Let the Sky Fall, and When It Crumbles, We Will Stand Tall. I thought and I guess, that does work with the house and everything then, but, I got the impression that let this happen, but we're gonna persevere through it, and we're gonna be better after the fact. I really thought that it was about the agency as a whole, and I didn't realize it was that connected to Bond personally.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that either going in, and I thought that was something that really shocked me. I didn't know what Skyfall was going to be, and then you go through the whole movie, and it's like, well, what is it? And then they finally show you, and I was like, oh, okay, I like it, but I thought it was going to be... I was expecting, some satellite and space shit, where it was, shooting lasers at submarines or something. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was not
essentially
He was going to shoot a laser at a submarine, which is going to pull a golden comet to Earth.
That would almost be the plot of Die Another Day.
Yeah, I was
just about
to fucking
just
say
about.
that. Oh my god.
Well, let me also say this. Speaking of Pierce Brosnan Bond movies, what I think Skyfall in and of itself is a reference to Bond history because the title of the GoldenEye movie comes from the name of Ian Fleming's estate where he wrote all of the James Bond movies, which was called GoldenEye. And I was like, are they making a reference to that by naming Bond's estate something that sounds like a James Bond title? Because if so, I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking initially.
Yeah.
Bill, did you want to bring up something, or was it just the song?
I wanted to bring up the song as well. I still listen to it to this day. I love it. It's one of my favorite Bond tunes. It sounds like such a classic Shirley Bassey number. I love it.
Okay.
And that opening animation. Oh God.
It's
I
fantastic.
love the opening credits. That was really cool.
That makes or breaks a Bond movie for me, especially getting me into the mood. Like Quantum of Solace, I like that movie, but those opening titles are not great. And the song, ugh.
Casino Royale probably still has the best opening animations, though.
And the most apt song to what's going on in the movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And you know what I like about who directed this film?
Sam Mendes.
Sam Mendes.
You know what? He reminds me of a lot more bombastic Nolan with a hint. He also appreciates a good color palette where Nolan really doesn't. But yeah, I really like it, the fucking art direction. Well, not the art direction, comic book thinking. I mean, the cinematography in this film. It's beautiful. It has this certain classic layout to it, which I really appreciate. It doesn't look like something exactly. It looks classic. It's like it stays in your mind. It's shot in such a way where the images, even now, from like 10 years from now, it will still stay in your head. And that's a sign of a great film. It doesn't kind of essentially... A good film doesn't essentially use the cinematography of that day. Because, you know, when you look at some movies, they kind of use similar techniques and they all kind of blur together as one thing. When a movie really takes that extra step to differentiate itself from other movies with a thing as subtle as, you know, cinematography, I truly appreciate it, and that's what really makes a movie stand out in my mind for a long time.
Speaking to the cinematography, one of the things I realize I've fallen in love with is silhouettes in cinematography, and this has a lot of really good silhouette shots. So.
Yeah, we need some more silhouettes in movies nowadays. We don't
That sequence in the building in Shanghai is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little confusing. This is like such a nitpick, but I'm so confused about the number of doors in that office.
It is, yeah. Before I need to bring up a super nitpick.
I kind of like that, before you do that, I kind of like that because it kind of looks like a weird prison maze of glass. And with the whole blue, it looks so, it's kind of abstract and awesome. So that's why I like it.
It's gorgeous, but it makes no goddamn sense.
Not at all.
It's still too short also. I wish that was like 30 seconds longer.
Yeah. Well, let me bring up my super Bond fan nitpick, because this didn't bother me until my dad, of all people, brought this up when I saw the movie with him. Because we're both big Bond guys who went to go see it together. And we were talking about it afterwards, and getting my dad to say anything is like trying to pull teeth about a movie, especially because he'll just say things like, "I liked it and it was good." It's nothing more out of him. So I started bringing up specifics. I was like, "Well, did you like that they brought in the Aston Martin?" And he was like, "Oh, that was great." And he was like, "But didn't they do that in Casino Royale?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, they did do that in Casino Royale." In Casino Royale, there's a great scene where Bond plays poker with one of the villains of the film, not the villain, and he's kicking his ass. Or I forget exactly how the scene plays out, but it leads with the villain betting his car to beat Bond because he thinks he's going to beat him. So Bond wins and gets the car, and he goes out and we find out it's a '63 Aston Martin, the same car from Goldfinger. Cute reference. Okay, so we go to this movie now. And then Bond goes to a garage, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, and pulls out the Aston Martin, which is fine. It's his car. He would have it somewhere. But then it's got all of the weapons in it from Goldfinger. And I was like, where did this car come from?
He tricked it out.
Did he do that? But then why would he trick it out in 2006 with weapons from the 60s?
I don't know.
I think the
I don't know.
that is in that 6-year gap between films. It's probably like Goldfinger happened somewhere there, and Bond continuity is just weird like that.
I guess. There's always that
I'm confused. Isn't like Goldfinger and all that, like all those classic films, they're not in the same continuity as this?
Yes, they're not.
No, I mean, like, they are and they aren't, because there's multiple references to them, and there's multiple progressions to them, and then there's certain things that are overtly not in canon with them.
Well, Casino Royale is very clearly a reboot, more so than Bond had ever done. I mean, again, they'd switched actors plenty of times, and they had, they had changed things, but they never explicitly restarted the canon. But with Casino Royale, they did that outright. Just with no training wheels whatsoever. This is a new continuity. But you're right. There are certain references to things that may or may not have happened. It's very confusing.
Well, yeah, because Eon Pictures never actually comes out and says whether or not there is a Bond canon.
Yeah,
well,
that's frustrating about it.
I kind of like that in a way, because it's not like nerds love continuity, and like every I think it's a little bit. I like the fact that it's a little bit more fluid, and it's not like that's not canon. I don't like when nerds kind of just let like it's a little bit more of a nuanced subtlety, a little bit of a nuance. It's a film series.
Stop using the word nuance.
I'm sorry.
There is certainly a progression in the classic Bond films, because
obviously.
After Tracy dies, that's brought up a bunch.
Yeah.
They like to hammer that point home that he's pissed that she got killed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I certainly agree. But it's weird that he brings that car up, and it's obviously a big point of nostalgia, not just for the audience, but seemingly for Bond. It's just a weird thing. It just leaves me wondering where he got it.
Maybe Bond just has a thing for like classic '60s spy tech.
I guess that must be what's going on, because we also know it's not an MI6 car, because he says company cars. They have trackers. So then he goes to that one.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. He's a nerd. He's like, he's an old auto nerd. He's like
Coulson from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's like, he likes old, like, 60s cars where, like, the 60s spies had great cars. I'm gonna redo this newer one with the same weaponry. He just does it in his garage. It's like, what, like, he has some, like, slutty girl or whatever, like, to the side, covered in, like, fucking, I don't know, motor oil, and she's like, what you doing?
He got that anyway.
Exactly, and she's like standing there with the martinis, like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm putting a rocket launcher in the boot or whatever." And she's like, "Why?" I don't know.
Because it's cool.
Because it's cool, woman.
There's still that standing theory that every Bond movie is canon, and James Bond's just a code name that protagonist gets throughout time.
Don't get me started. I'm gonna start throwing things.
Yeah, that one's terrible. It doesn't make any sense, but it's still there.
I still like it.
I'm gonna start throwing things and hurt people.
Before we wrap up, can I mention my very last point about the directing?
Sure.
Okay, so Sam Mendes directed this. I like that Milan mentioned the coloring and stuff, because I think Sam Mendes is a much better cinematographer than he is a director. Because there's no influence of him getting a better performance out of his actors than what they're capable of. Everyone just does their basic level performance, and even if it's like Javier Bardem really good, or Daniel Craig really bad, no one ever elevates it, no one's ever challenged to do anything more than what they're capable of. And all Sam Mendes seems to be doing is placing shots. I showed this movie to my dad because, like you, Zazabar, me and my dad really love James Bond together. He got me into James Bond. I don't like Casino Royale simply because he doesn't like it. So, there's a thing there. But he hates Skyfall.
Really?
I showed it to him. I said it was amazing, and he hates it. And one of his criticisms is that the ending to the movie, the whole thing with him coming home and meeting Kincaid and them battling off Skyfall, is literally scene for scene the ending of Hard Target from Jean-Claude Van Damme's movies. And that's true. That's completely fair. And
Wait,
one
is
of
that the movie where he's a convict?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's another movie, but essentially it's the same ending where the guy comes home with the girl he's trying to save on an older vehicle while being chased with a bunch of military-esque upgraded people that took down an organization, and he meets an old childhood mentor in an old abandoned house, and they just fight and explode in an entire wild situation outside of technology. It's the exact same thing.
That really depresses me.
Yeah.
You've really depressed my whole life, Steve.
Well, it depressed me when my dad said it because I didn't know about it, and I love Hard Target. But one of the other things he says, and I agree with him on this, is that Daniel Craig is not a good actor, and this is proof of it because there were multiple scenes where things happen like really big explosions or really traumatic things, and all he does is just slantily walk off screen, and there isn't much acting in it. There isn't much presence to it. There isn't much movement beyond what Daniel Craig always does. He's not being forced to elevate his performance any higher than he's already done it before.
I see,
and that's a problem.
I see what you're saying. Here's how I disagree. I feel like that's part of the thing I like about his Bond performance is that he feels so methodical.
Yeah.
And that he's really burying his feelings. And one scene that's very prevalent with that is when Tanner is briefing him about everything. He's doing the pull-ups, and he's trying desperately to look strong and everything. And Tanner goes, "Do you want to do this later?" "Yeah, let's do that." And then as soon as everybody walks out of the room, he collapses.
Yeah.
And I think that's
like
part
that.
of what's going on. I do agree with you, though. Here's my issue with him. I just don't think he's suave enough. He's got his moment. He's definitely got his moment.
He's a suave motherfucker.
I
I disagree. No, I disagree. Everyone calls Daniel Craig a thug, and I don't see that. I really see kind of like a realistic suave motherfucker. Like he's a fucking spy. He's serious. But of course it's James Bond. But he still he is a great James Bond for me.
He's especially, a good flirter. I think he's good at that.
I think he's truly.
Right, let me
Bill, Ian, one thing. I think he's like I said before. He wasn't really James Bond in the first two ones, but in this one, I think he truly became James Bond in my mind. But a question: is Daniel Craig does he have some Russian blood in him? Because he just looks like he looks Russian. It's those cold blue eyes and the emotionless face.
I don't know his
Russian?
heritage.
I know.
Check that out.
You brought up a point because we talked about this before we started recording.
Steve, can I get in real quick?
Sure.
All right. So, on the thing of James Bond and Daniel Craig, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this, and Milan is going to cheer and scream and laugh for hours. He's not attractive enough.
I agree.
I've heard that too, and I think part of that.
I absolutely agree.
I think that objectively Daniel Craig is an attractive person, but he's not the right kind of attractive for James Bond in my mind.
It's
and weird. As weird as this is, I know Pierce Brosnan gets a lot of hate for being one of the worst Bonds.
Really? By who?
To me,
Well,
I've just heard people say that.
Really? Okay.
I'll get into that.
Shut up!
That's my final
Let me
point.
finish the fucking point. I know Pierce Brosnan gets a lot of hate. Like maybe it's his movies, maybe it's him, whatever. But he always was the right look for Bond to me. He had the perfect look because he's such a fucking pretty boy, and that's one of the things I think James Bond always capitalizes on. Is that he's just got that really charming kind of face that just makes you want to trust him.
Okay.
The weird thing with Daniel Craig's face is that he's a proper man. And I know it's weird because in movies you get to see all these pretty boys and they're like, oh, look at my boyish features. But Daniel Craig, what I really like about him, what I miss seeing in movies, he has that old classic, almost like 1960s. Yeah, grizzly. He has that 1960s face. He looks like
a man who smoked. Yeah, he looks like a guy who smoked a couple packs of cigarettes, and I like that.
Yeah, he
that's
looks
what
like
Bond,
a fucking man. He looks like a fucking
and
man.
also let me just say this.
He doesn't look like a fucking child. He's a fucking fully developed man.
There are lots of moments when I'm watching him on screen because his Bond isn't really a talker, and I think that's part of the problem a lot of people have with it. He's very much so a man of action in a few words, and that's not really James Bond. And there are moments where you're watching him do this stuff, and you keep having to remind yourself, oh, that's James Bond. I'm watching James Bond. But I had that less in this movie, and I think he's much closer to the Bond in the books in the style of he's a very, very methodical. And he's probably, with the possible exception of Timothy Dalton, the most tortured Bond we've seen on screen. And that's something I love about his performance. And I think he does that very well.
Oh, definitely. But he still has that swagger to him, which I like.
That's what I appreciate about it.
Yeah, I appreciate the swagger because, you have that kind of... It's a manly swagger, which I kind of like. I'm such a fucking faggot. Oh, my God. This is ridiculous. Oh, I feel... I want to fucking make a hate crime against myself. I'm so gay. This is ridiculous.
All right, let's calm down now, Milan.
All right, let's... So we've got... Everyone's got the last thing that they wanted to make sure we addressed as a group out, correct?
I just had one final thing then, because... okay. Do you want to go first?
Oh, goddamn. This will never end.
Well, no, Steve, are you talking about the things we just talked about? Because mine's a completely different thing. Okay, so go ahead. You go first.
Okay, cool. I like that you guys mentioned this, because we talked about this before we started recording, and my whole point is that James Bond as a concept, and James Bond as a historical character, he isn't Jason Bourne, he isn't Captain America, he isn't, like any other fictional spy character we have, James Bond is his own element and his own thing. And every time we have actors that get cast as that character, they always have to play to that thing for better or for worse. And we got that with Sean Connery. Whether you liked it or not, it was there with Roger Moore, and I personally did like it. And the problem I have with Pierce Brosnan is that Pierce Brosnan recognizes and was cast because he knows that concept and what that stereotype of James Bond has to be. He just doesn't do anything more than that. And that was my problem with him. The thing with Daniel Craig is, Daniel Craig gets written like the classic James Bond, except that he's in a more character-aware setting. The problem is, he can't play the classic concept of James Bond, where he has the one-liners in all of his movies, he has dry humor in all of his movies, and he's got womanizing, playboy, pretty boy things built into all three of his films, but he still acts as if he's Jason Bourne. There's nothing to Daniel Craig inherently that's similar to the Bond concept that isn't also similar to Jason Bourne. And that's always been my problem with him.
I see what you're saying. I will always say he's not suave enough, certainly.
Yeah. Like, the perfect example in this movie is when he jumps from that crane in the opening scene into the train, and he's straightening, like, his wrist cuffs.
I love
and that could be really smooth and could be really perfect, but he doesn't do it well. It just feels kind of jarred.
Really?
I disagree. That looks fucking sexy. It's just like, yeah, I don't care.
I thought that was great. But
it was.
Let me say something to the James Bond franchise, because this is my last thing. Again, major nitpick. Can we start putting the gun barrel sequences back at the beginning of the movies?
Yes, thank you.
Start doing that. I'm so sick of having to wait 2 hours to see it, because that's such an important thing in making a Bond movie feel right. You're sticking it at the beginning, you have your pre-title sequence, and then you hop into the opening credits. And we haven't had that since Die Another Day, and that movie fucked it up, because it's like, oh, let's put a 3D bullet in there, and it's like, don't do that.
Oh, yeah, you're so right, I missed that.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that bugged me. And the excuse that they had with Quantum was, and I love the way they did it in Casino Royale, I thought that was very clever. But the excuse they had with Quantum was that, well, our movies are, Daniel Craig is becoming James Bond. His character is becoming the archetype. And so we wanted to put the gun barrel sequence at the end in order to signify that now he is the James Bond you know and love. Okay, great. Skyfall. Let's put the gun barrel sequence at the opening. Nope. We have a shot that vaguely gives that impression, and then it's at the end again. And it just seems to be there because, all right, at the end we now have somewhat of a more classic Bond tone. We have a male M. We have that classic padded room. I get it. And we have Moneypenny. But even still, I want those gun barrel sequences back where they belong.
And I want them to slow down, because Craig's are still way too fast. They're like 3 seconds long.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what we need? We need a Godzilla gun. Oh, wait. Sorry,
well, Steve, I agree. And they tried to fix it this time, but they fucked it up in a completely different way. So it looks great at first. They slow it down, because Quantum's was like 4 seconds. But they slow it down, and then he shoots the screen, and then that's it. And then they cut to the Bond 50th logo. And I'm like...
They didn't do blood?
They didn't. No, they did the blood, but they didn't do the whole gun shaking. That's part of the whole beauty of it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It wasn't right.
Well, no, you're right. Like, there is an inherent genius to the idea of the gun barrel opening sequence. It's something totally different, and if anyone else does it, they are ripping off James Bond. There's no way around it. that thing puts you in a mindset, and it puts you in a mood, and you have to have it.
Yep.
And the fact that they always put it at the end just ruins it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. Now that we've got our final discussions out, does anyone have final... we're going to go round robin and do final thoughts on the film as a whole. Milan, let's start with you. Just because, fuck, why not?
Okay, thank you, Ian. I liked the film. It was good. It has a pretty man in it doing awesome things. It was pretty. And the story was good. And Daniel Craig's face is hot, and abs, and guns, and shooting, and supervillain plot, and fun, and yay, happy, 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 smiley face, XOXO, thumb pointing upright.
Okay, who wants to go next?
Steve, you can go if you want.
No, you go ahead. It's your final show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, make yours nice, long, and special, and I'll just keep mine brief.
Oh, okay. Well, I still love this movie. I was actually kind of worried rewatching it for this review because I was like, because a lot of people have told me, oh, it doesn't hold up as well when you go back and rewatch it after those the first couple times. And I was like, oh no, am I not going to like Skyfall anymore? I don't want to live in a world where I don't like Skyfall. And I rewatched it and I was like, nope, still love it. I think it's a little slower than I remember, and I'm not sure if that's a bad thing because a lot of James Bond movies are very slow, and that kind of helps them a little bit in drawing out the pacing. It's not perfect. I think the slowness is definitely a little bit weird. And I think it's not so much the slow pacing as it takes a while to know what the plot is, and that's a little bit frustrating. But overall, I think it's a beautifully shot movie. It's the first time in the Daniel Craig films that you really get the sense of, I'm watching a classic James Bond movie. We've very clearly got a cast and crew who have a passion for James Bond making this movie, and I loved that. It perfectly balances telling a good James Bond story while also including all the references that make it a really good 50th anniversary movie. I love the new Q. That's something I haven't touched on. I love the new Q. Ben Whishaw is fantastic.
He is so hot.
A lot of people have described him as a young Desmond Llewellyn, and I completely agree. He embodies everything that Desmond Llewellyn made iconic about that character. And
I just think he's Matt Smith's younger brother.
I mean, I don't know if that's a bad thing.
No, it's not.
I'm just saying that he looks so much like Matt Smith to me. It's ridiculous.
Well, he's British. They all look the fucking same.
No, not at all.
I think he's fantastic. There's some amazing dialogue exchanges in this movie. I love the scene between Q and Bond in the museum. Adore that scene. First scene with Silva and Bond. Another thing we haven't talked much about that I really appreciated as a Bond fan is I love that we're bringing his backstory into the forefront because that's never been done in the movies. Every now and then they'll mention it, but they very rarely go into it. It's mentioned in GoldenEye. They mention it in Casino Royale. This time they're like, no, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into what made him so dark as a person. And I loved that. They didn't go into as much depth as I thought they could, but they went into enough where it didn't feel like the last half hour suddenly turned into an origin piece. So yeah. I loved that about it. I love this movie. Are we giving ratings yet, or are we going to wait?
We're going to do that next.
Okay, so I love this movie.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Steve, final thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, first off, Zazibar, it was awesome that you were here to review it with us, because you were a really big Bond fan. It was fun going back and forth with you, so that was awesome.
Oh, yeah, you too, bro. Absolutely.
But yeah, just final thoughts on Skyfall. It's one of my favorite James Bond movies. The only reason I can't put it as number one is simply because I grew up on, like, From Russia with Love and Spy Who Loved Me, and that's about it. But yeah, it's a really good film. Daniel Craig's criticisms aside, I think it's definitely figured out what they want to do with this new franchise. And maybe it's a little bit too late in the fact that Daniel Craig's getting a bit older and we might not get more with him, even though we signed up for more movies. Yeah. But maybe that means we can get a new actor and we can take this final status quo they got in the film and just go full speed ahead, even if it's with a recasting. We talked about some of the flaws, but I don't think my opinions really changed that much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Alright, for me, like I said, this movie it was oversold to me, and I don't think I'll ever be able to love it for that reason. I pointed out, like, some of my biggest problems with it. There are a couple other little things. You know, fucking Komodo dragons don't eat people like that.
That was weird, too.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ. They totally do. They eat people.
Okay, anyway, no, just, there's little things that I didn't like, but overall, I did enjoy the movie more than I thought I would. I still think it has issues that, like, I don't know, I feel like when things get really popular, people just don't want to talk about problems that they see in it, or they just want to ignore it, so I feel this, like, compulsion to point them out at some points. Even if they're small things, I feel the need to, like, drag them out of people that like them, that like the movies. So that's probably part of what leads me into my feelings on this film, but once again, I mean, it's not for me in general, though. I'm not a Bond fan, and it's weird, because I'm such a big Batman guy, and like I say, they borrow from each other so much, but Batman has something inherently different about it that, like, that's a core of the character that James Bond doesn't have, and I think that's why it's so separate from me. I'm not a huge spy guy. I don't like the whole spy thing that much. You know, I never got into Burn Notice or anything spy, really. I mean, Batman's about the closest I ever came.
That's weird, because Batman's my favorite character of all time, and I feel like these two characters go hand in hand.
Yeah,
I think they're similar, but I think there's something different at Batman's core than there is at James Bond.
Well, I mean, Batman isn't a spy, is the thing.
Well, but he's got spy-like elements. And stuff
absolutely.
He's a globetrotter, yeah.
Well, let me finish my thoughts here. So, there's nothing so wrong with this movie that it's, like, awful and no one should ever waste their time watching it or anything like that. No, it's a fun film. You should watch it if you like James Bond. If you haven't already, I don't know why.
Yeah, what are you waiting for Ian's thoughts for?
I suppose I'd recommend watching this for people that maybe have an interest in Bond and want to get into it, because it's a good film. There's a solid character arc. There's all the stuff that you need. It's just, like, it doesn't win me over like some people were saying it would. When I was talking to people about this movie, they're like, "Oh no, even if you're not a Bond fan, you'll love it." And I'm like, nah.
I don't think it does that really. I don't know if it's really a great introduction movie.
Yeah, I don't think I'd give it to someone as, like, a starting Bond fan. I think I'd still go back to the classics.
The classics or Steve, I know you don't love it, but I think Casino Royale is good at that, because that was my real introduction.
Though, this is what I was told, is even if you're not a Bond fan, it's really good.
It's weird that they say that, because I feel like even though I hate GoldenEye, I think GoldenEye is still a good introduction to James Bond.
Yeah, that is as well.
Alright, so let's go ahead and do scores. I'll start since I went last. I'll give this 3.5 gun barrel sequences out of 5. And it got really quiet, and everyone's mad at me.
Well, no, who's up next? That was my thought.
Okay, I guess I'll go.
Is there an order now that I don't know about? Are you guys?
There is no order. There's never have been an order. Anyway, I give it 5 out of 5 shirtless Daniel Craig torsos. No head, just a torso. That's all I care about.
Oh my fucking god.
You just want to fuck Daniel Craig, don't you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What an asinine question, Bill.
Did you just get that now, Bill?
But that just seems to be your
subtle for you.
That just seems to be your sole purpose in life now. Is I just want to have sex with Daniel Craig. If you succeed, call me, because that's really fucked up.
I'll fucking send you pictures. You'll love it.
I don't want. Well, I'd like to meet Daniel Craig. So I mean, if you could hook that up, that'd be great.
Just come over to my apartment. He'll be on a doggy leash in his underwear in the corner.
Oh my fucking god! All right.
Imagine he listens to this. Well, I'm glad you were that enthusiastic about me.
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay,
Mr. Craig, I love your body of work. Just your body. I'm such a faggot. Jesus Christ.
Steve, go ahead.
Okay. I give it...
Follow that up.
I give it 4 out of 5 personal statement Walther PPKs.
Oh,
that's great.
Oh, you clever bitch.
I give Skyfall, Let the Sky Fall 007 a 4.5 exploding thermostats out of 5.
Nice.
Ooh, clever.
Okay. Alright, so...
Jake and Nutsturd.
So let's get into Geeky Gentleman announcement mode now. Thank you everyone for listening to our review of Skyfall. So this is the announcement section.
Everyone turns the video off. No, I'm kidding.
The more apt viewers in our audience may have noticed that Bill hasn't been on the show for the last couple months.
Yeah, really? I haven't noticed.
What? No!
I thought he was just really quiet.
And there's a reason for that. So,
I was really...
So, Bill, there's a reason for that, and I'm going to let Bill explain it now.
Yeah, okay. So, we've been doing this show for quite a while, and, recently, I mean, there's really not much to tell. I mean, recently, I was just kind of feeling like, I feel like I've had my run. I love the work we've put into it. I love you guys. I think we've done some really great work here. I think we've had some really good times. It sounds so cliched. But
we should have Max McConaughey.
Yeah, exactly. I love you guys. And you guys kill me, and you make me laugh, and you make me cry, and you just take me on a roller coaster of emotions. But I just feel like I've personally said everything I've needed to say with this podcast and with this series. I just felt like, honestly, and you guys are going to laugh at me, I felt, or maybe not, maybe you'll be like, yeah. I honestly felt like I wasn't contributing enough intelligently to the conversation, and I thought part of that was just, I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I don't sound intelligent, and I'm amongst intelligent guys, and I think I've had my run.
You really thought that?
And I think it's time I handed over the reins, and I think I have. Steve, I've listened to some of the shows you're on. You're awesome, my friend. If I ever had to come back, I'd be fucked, because I may be like, really, you got rid of that guy?
Oh no, I don't agree with that, man. You're awesome.
Oh
yeah, dude.
But yes,
Bill.
I am leaving the show, and
we should say this. It's not like completely Bill's never going to be on the show again.
Yeah, no. As this is shown, I'll come back whenever something's relevant. If you guys ever want me back, I'll come on happily.
More James Bond, please.
Yeah, let's talk more Bond. Let's review Never Say Never Again. That'll be fun.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. That's what we should have done. Fuck Skyfall. God damn it.
No, that was the 67 version of Casino Royale.
Oh wow.
No, we should have done Never Say Never Again, because it would have been like the perfect thing for this goodbye episode.
I know, we should have reviewed something horrible and made me cry.
Oh, you know what? Just because of this episode alone, I'm downloading legally Dr. No by Ian Fleming.
Oh, okay.
All right. But Bill, go ahead, go on. Sorry.
But just in total, I love this show. I love you guys. I'm gonna miss it, but I think it's time I moved on. I moved into the sunset. I had my last crusade ending. So I'm gonna be leaving, and I hand over my reins to the capable hands of Mr. Steve Baxi, and you guys will, I'm sure, continue to do fantastic work. So thank you to our listeners. You guys are great, and thank you to Ian and Milan for just being you.
Aw, you're gonna make me cry, dude. Like, Bill, it's been a pleasure having you here on the show. It's not like you're leaving forever, but the time we have spent together was truly magical.
It was.
And it was beautiful. We held hands. You know, that time in the forest with the tent, and like the fire went out, and I know.
See, I don't remember this, so I'm worried.
And then we found that shack with the basement full of dead cats nailed up to the ceiling. It was one.
Jesus Christ!
It was like there was a book bound in human flesh that summoned monsters. I don't know. It was a weird night, but that night ended in butt sex, and I will never. Thank you for that, Bill.
What he's saying is that he got drunk watching the last episode of True Detective, and you just happened to be online.
Not really. Was that whole Cabin in the Woods thing with you guys or some other people? I can't really remember.
I don't remember.
No, we did Cabin in the Woods.
Crazy shit you say, but I love it anyway.
Oh, thank you. But seriously, you know, you say such nice things like, "Oh, you feel like you're the dumbest guy in the room." That's my fucking job. Thank you very much. But, you know...
With style, I just feel like a blunt instrument. I feel like a dick just floating through space, just like trying to fuck... That's weird. It's a weird metaphor.
You're a cosmically aware cock. That's what you
No,
are.
but I'm not aware is the problem.
Oh.
Stabbing around in the dark.
Anyway. Yeah, dude, it killed me the night, like, this is how long this has been in the works, and Bill's so bad at scheduling things. Here's Bill's thing. He says he's gonna do something, and then, like, puts it off for 3 months, and then it never happens, and it's because of me that this episode happened.
Yes.
Bill told us that he wanted to leave the night we did the Godzilla review, after I spent a semester making a 3D Godzilla model to use for sketches and intro segments and stuff.
Kind of a dick. I'm not gonna lie.
So, like, no, but Bill decided that he wanted to leave, and he told us then. And we were originally planning to do, like, a whole thing where we'd have guests on and, like, tell them that we're looking for a replacement, blah, blah, blah. And Steve was the first of those. And I'm going to sound like a dick, but no one else said yes or could make it. So.
How does that make you feel, Steve?
I feel like Larry Hama when he was the last person to write G.I. Joe. It's like, well, no one else wanted the job, so here you go. Do something with
That
it.
is the most adorable reference in history of references. Like you just like, I'm gonna reference a G.I. Joe comic book writer. You are fucking adorable, Steve Baxi. You know that? You are fucking adorable.
Anyway, so no, like, in all seriousness, though, I'm glad that Steve said yes, because it's been so much fun. And Steve, I've gotten to know you over the last 3 months, and it's been a great time, and I look forward to the future of Geeky Gentlemen with you here.
Oh, yeah.
And now that Bill's finally gone, we can have an intelligent conversation.
Oh, yeah,
instead
yeah.
of...
Yeah, but
Well, I don't mean to sound like a dick, but the wedding ring you got me was a little bit too small, but that's okay.
Did you get my package?
I didn't.
You did? What'd you think?
No, I said I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
By I didn't, I mean I did, but I didn't want to open it.
Oh, come on! I put it has little pink
scared.
polka dots.
No, but let me have my heartfelt goodbye to Bill.
Okay.
Just let me have this.
It's gonna end so badly for me, I can tell, whenever Ian says things like this.
Well, I'll go after Ian just to make it a little bit more cheery.
Yeah, no, but seriously, it's gonna be so hard. Like, I remember the night that Bill told me, like, I was up, we finished the show probably like 1 o'clock in the morning, but I was up till 3 a.m. just thinking about it, and I was so sad. Like, I guess the only thing I can really compare it to is, like, it's the same feeling I got after high school, like about a year after high school, when I realized I hadn't seen the majority of my friends from high school in over a year. And it's just like that, that's how I feel like it might go, and I hope not. And Bill's like all being reassuring and stuff. Oh yeah, we'll stay in contact. Bullshit. So I'm gonna miss you, Bill, because this is gonna be the last time we ever talk.
No, it's not. Not.
Fine then. You owe me a mini episode anyway, so we're gonna do that soon, everybody.
Wait, do I really? I forget.
Yeah, it's that 5 list.
Oh God, that thing! Wow.
Yeah, you owe me a mini episode anyway.
I'll do it in 6 months.
And by that you mean you won't do it in 6 months.
Well, I'm doing Gamera-Palooza right now, and that's just mentally taxing. Oh, you should watch that, by the way. I don't know when this is going up, but that'll be a thing.
Say, do you still want me to be Ghidorah or whatever?
No, he's never gonna do that.
Oh.
Like, what
Me.
are you not paying attention?
I mean, not never.
Bill says he'll do something. He's not gonna do it. Which means he's not leaving the show. Yeah.
Don't pretend to be excited about that.
No, but in all seriousness, though,
Yeah.
I am, like, so heartbroken.
Oh.
And I'm gonna miss the hell out of Bill. And it hurts. It really does. It really is like losing a leg. But I guess Steve Baxi is a really cool, like, cyborg prosthetic. Or even, let me back up a little bit. It's like losing an arm, but Steve Baxi's a really cool cyborg prosthetic arm that's got like a red star on it and stuff.
Oh,
that was good, Ian. Wow, that was good.
Yeah, and it like sings, and it's like a Disney animated thing. It's like, hey,
What the fuck are you even talking about?
I don't know, the robotic hand is
Soldier
saying
reference, then it turned into something else.
Yeah, it's a
I
hand.
was
is
thinking
saying
it was the Winter Soldier reference too.
I felt the same way.
Milan just tried to tack onto my joke.
Yeah, I tend to do.
No, but But seriously though, I'm gonna miss the hell out of you, Bill. I wish you were here so I could give you a hug, and I wish you could have stopped by Fort Wayne when you're on your road to G-Fest, so I could have chained you up in my basement. And you couldn't leave the
You
show.
motherfucker! You were supposed to get me over there. You don't do it without me.
I was busy puking on the road and telling dick jokes.
The American
But
way.
yeah, all right. I guess I'll hand the reins over to Steve for his, I guess, official hello. This is like the slowest Doctor regeneration ever.
It takes a season to be like, oh, by the way, I'm the new Doctor.
So it's exactly like Matt Smith's ending, isn't it? He gets a whole speech and a hallucination and everything before someone...
Hallucination. It's so true, though.
It's better than the fucking...
David Tennant got a farewell of death, so...
That's true. He got
better...
20 minutes to say goodbye to everyone.
But it's better than the fucking Ood being like, we will sing you to your sleep.
Right, and it's like...
Well, fucking help him!
It's so true. He's collapsing in the snow and bleeding, and they're like, we're gonna sing to you, Doctor. It's gonna be all like, no, fuck you, I can't even get to my spaceship.
Oh, Doctor Who.
You goddamn stand-byers, that's what you are, you're stand-byers.
You fucking Cthulhu face looking motherfucker.
Don't you mean bystanders?
10
Shut
to
up.
12 or something? Anyway, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you said official hello, so hello with an official tag next to it. So yeah, I have been here for a while, and it's sad that I haven't got to talk with you, Bill Zazibar, before then, because I've seen a lot of the Geeky Gentlemen before that, and I heard a lot of your discussions, the review you did with about the Lego movie. It's just been really interesting looking at your body of work, and it sucks that I wasn't here earlier, at least to comment or just to start a discussion, because you're a really fascinating guy. I don't think I could ever be the highlight of the show you were, but I'm gonna try.
Oh, you've already done that.
And I will attempt. And if you ever find yourself free, the door to my channel is always open. You could always come on there, and we could do a show together. And if you ever want to come back here, I'll make Ian review more James Bond movies, and we'll do it that way.
We'll do the 54 American James Bond TV serial. We'll do that.
Oh
yes,
my God.
oh God,
That'll be fun.
Let's
do
do
if
James Bond Jr.
Definitely.
Top 10 episodes.
No, not
my
even
God.
top 10 episodes, just episode by episode commentary.
So you're pulling it. So wait. So you're pulling a Blue Dragon 5.
Yes, and that's
Yes.
exactly what we're gonna do.
The thing is, I think he still listens to this show, even though I've totally told him to fuck off.
Oh,
Well,
anyway.
if you didn't blatantly enough, you just did.
Well, no, dude, I did a fucking live show after I'd blocked him and everything, and he knew that I was pissed off at him, and he still fucking left comments on the live show, and I looked at the camera, I'm like, you asshole, quit fucking commenting, you know who you are. And then the comments stopped.
Weird.
Yeah, anyway.
But anyway,
all right.
Before that awkwardness, if we had an audience, that previous heartfelt conversation between all four of us would have inspired so much / fan fiction. Oh my God!
God, I've had enough.
If you're a fan, if you're an artist,
fiction.
if you're an artist or a writer in our audience, draw us, just yaoi everything, just slash us up. That's all I want.
As somebody who's had / fan art made of them, it's not that fun.
What? Whoa! What?
Oh yeah. SOS / fiction is a thing.
Oh God.
Yes.
And it's terrifying.
Link me
Listen,
right this.
It is
fucking
entirely
second.
our fault, but oh man, I love everybody. That's all I'm gonna say.
And we love
Okay, anyway. Alright, it's time to wrap up. Next week on the show, we will have another guest. Deadpoolzilla is coming back for a topic that he suggested that I think will be a really fun thing to discuss. So I am surrendering my topic to Deadpoolzilla. And next week on Geeky Gentlemen, we will be we will be discussing found footage movies.
Oh God.
I'm planning to rewatch Chronicle for this.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have to watch Paranormal Activity again for that?
No. You can watch a good found footage
Oh, thank
film.
God. Okay.
Those exist?
Yeah.
Chronicle!
Only Chronicle. And it would be better if it wasn't found footage.
Oh god, yeah.
Yes. Anyway,
fucking
we'll get
boy.
into it.
With the eyes that are cold and that is
I'm gonna
crying.
I'm gonna go see As Above, So Below just to kind of better prepare myself then.
We'll get into this. Anyway, so that'll be next week, and for the final time in quite a while, I suppose.
Oh man. Oh, I'm gonna cry.
I'm the philosopher.
I'm the fanatic.
I'm the madman.
And I'm the politician.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. When